Praise the Lord. Good morning, church family.
Good morning.
All right, praise the Lord. So, by way of announcements, as usual, Wednesday evening prayer and Bible study. We are going through the New Testament. Feel free to join us. Also, next week, Saturday, church movie night. So, 6 o'clock on Saturday. We haven't picked a movie yet, have we?
We have, but we're not going to reveal the movie, but
Okay.
it is an animated movie.
Okay. Well, there you go.
For families.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, we're a church. We got to be careful what movies we play here, right? So.
That's right.
So absolutely. Come and join us. You are welcome to join us too. We're not going to broadcast that. So, come and join us. We have a great time, guys. We're gonna have dessert. We're not having food. We are having dessert. Although dessert is food, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. So, bring a dessert to share, and we're gonna have a good time. So we had a really good time for the last movie night, and so it's always good to get together and just fellowship together. We don't have to always have Bible study and service. We can just get together as a church family and just enjoy each other's company. So praise the Lord for that. Anything I'm missing? No, I think we're good. All right. Well, we've been talking about since my birthday was this month, and having said that, let me wish again Bob a very happy birthday. He was on vacation last week, so Bob is a full 90 years old.
You got it. Where'd you go, Brittany? Video is right. I don't feel a day over 40.
There you go. They went to, it was Wildwood, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then took a trip to Cape May as well. So very nice.
First time.
Yeah, very, very, very nice area. If you've never been to Cape May, New Jersey, it's a beautiful place. And the boardwalk in Wildwood is also is excellent. So. They don't pay me to say that. I just laugh. We don't have any advertisements on this channel, so praise the Lord. So since it was my birthday, I decided to do a series on the lessons I have learned in my 55 years of life. So according to Bob, I'm just getting started, right? So,
You're only beginner.
That's right. So, we've been going through some of the lessons I have learned, and I wanted to kind of build on something we talked about last week. Last week we talked about the importance of how we think, right? And I did relate that to how God healed me of my anxiety and depression. Well, in the interim, I have had a couple people kind of mention to me that they have been struggling with anxiety. So I decided I wanted to kind of expand on that subject. So we are going to talk today a little more in depth on dealing with anxiety and depression. And look, it's not a surprise to me that people are struggling with anxiety because it is, at this point, anxiety and depression are at epidemic levels in our country. 2/3 of people report having had symptoms of anxiety and depression in the past year that interfered with their daily life. And that's a number that's been growing over the years. And so people are feeling anxious and they're feeling depressed. And look, I do believe that God can heal you, and I know He can because He healed me. But there were certain strategies that I learned before that also helped me, and I want to share those. First, though, a few disclaimers. I hate that I have to do this, but it is what it is. I want you guys to know very clearly, I am not a doctor or a therapist or a medical professional or a mental health professional in any way, shape, or form. Nothing that I say today should be construed as medical advice. Please talk to your doctor or mental health professional before doing anything or before changing anything in your life, okay? Have I made that clear? Okay, I like I said, I hate that I have to say that, but I do want to make that clear. I'm not giving medical advice. The only thing I'm relating here is my own personal experience. If it helps you, praise God, and I hope it does. All right. So, in terms of a biblical basis for this discussion, there's two things I would characterize this under. Number one, I would characterize this under being a good steward. See, Jesus talked a lot about being a good steward, that God provides us with many blessings, and it is our responsibility to treat those blessings well, to manage them well. Well, I think that includes the body that we inhabit. God knit us together, and He expects us to do what we can to take care of this body that He has given us. The other biblical principle is the principle of reaping and sowing. You reap what you sow, right? So if you make negative choices concerning your health, you are going to have negative outcomes. It just is that simple. If you make positive choices concerning your health, you will have more positive outcomes. All right? So, and having said that, I want you to understand something, guys. There's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to feeling anxiety or depression, okay? These are medical conditions. Now, I need to emphasize that because when I was growing up, there was a stigma behind anxiety and depression, which is why it took so long for me to be able to find help. The church especially did not talk about anxiety or depression. And as a matter of fact, the only thing people would tell you is, oh, you need to pray more. Or you just need to believe more. I'm going to stop because I'm getting upset Look, I wish I had $1 for every time somebody told me in my life, oh, just get over it. Do me a favor, okay? You guys that are here, you guys that are listening, please don't ever say that to someone. Don't ever say that to someone who suffers from anxiety or depression, please. Because let me tell you something. You guys, I've told you, God has healed my temper. But there are a few things that will set me off. That's one of them. Please don't tell someone suffering from anxiety or depression to just get over it. It would be like telling somebody suffering from diabetes, oh, just get over it. Right? That sounds stupid, doesn't it? Well, yeah, it's just as stupid to tell somebody who's suffering from anxiety or depression to just get over it. Okay? All right, I'm going to stop there. Now, look, going back to talking to your doctor. Look, look, we know that not all doctors are good doctors, right? That's not a controversial statement. Just like in any profession, there are good doctors, there are mediocre doctors, there are bad doctors, all right? Same thing with mental health professionals. Okay, I want you to find a doctor you can trust. Someone who's willing to talk to you about your whole health, and not someone who's always their first instinct is always to reach for the prescription pad. Okay? Look, if a doctor has written you a prescription, take your medicine. Okay? I am not telling you to stop taking a prescription. What I'm telling you is to find a doctor you can trust to write that prescription. Okay? The reason that I stopped seeing my previous doctor is because his first instinct was always the most extreme. And I'll give you an example of that. You guys know that and I've told you this, I weighed 245 pounds at one time, right? And I suffered from sleep apnea. Now, sleep apnea is a very dangerous condition, right? What sleep apnea is that you actually stop breathing in the middle of the night. And my wife will tell you that she's seen me literally stop breathing for minutes at a time at that time. And that is dangerous. I mean, your level, your percentage chance of stroke, heart attack, all of those things go up immensely when you suffer from sleep apnea. I went to my doctor to talk about my sleep apnea. Now, my doctor's first instinct, his first piece of advice was basically to give me a tracheotomy. Thank you. So I'm not crazy, right? That sounds extreme, doesn't it? He wanted to drill a hole in my throat and put a tube there. Look, that would have solved my sleep apnea. I would have been able to breathe, but I would have had a hole in my throat, okay? I told the doctor, I said, listen. I was calm. I said, listen, give me a chance to see if I can lose a little weight, and let's see what happens. I lost 50 pounds. Was not easy. I will tell you that. One of the hardest things in the world I did, especially when you have sleep apnea. Because if you're not sleeping, you don't have a lot of energy to exercise, right? So, but I managed to do it. I lost 50 pounds over that next year. And my sleep apnea was good. My blood pressure had gotten back to normal. Everything, my cholesterol level was back to normal. Everything was better after I lost 50 pounds. That's what my doctor should have told me. He should have looked me in the eye and said, dude, you're too fat. Lose some weight, okay? So I tell that story because I want you guys to find a doctor who's willing to look you in the eye and tell you, hey, this is the real problem. Deal with it. So, okay. I can talk about that all day, but I'm not going to. So last week, when we're talking about dealing with anxiety and depression, last week we did talk about the importance of how you think, right? How you think is extremely important in dealing with anxiety and depression, but it is only half the battle. There is another half of that battle. The other half is physical. And it starts with what you eat. Diet is the single most important factor in your overall health. What you eat determines how you are going to feel. And it is amazing to me sometimes when I talk to somebody and they tell me that they eat garbage all day long, and they wonder why it is that they feel like garbage all day long. Well, it's like a computer, guys. Garbage in and garbage out. But as it specifically relates to your mental health, this is from Harvard Medical School's Harvard Health website. Your brain is always on. It takes care of your thoughts and movements, your breathing and heartbeat, your senses. It works hard 24/7, even while you're asleep. This means your brain requires a constant supply of fuel. That fuel comes from the food you eat. And what's in that fuel makes all the difference. Put simply, what you eat directly affects the structure and function of your brain and ultimately your mood. Like an expensive car, your brain functions best when it gets only premium fuel. Eating high-quality foods that contain lots of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants nourishes the brain and protects it from oxidative stress. The waste, free radicals, produced when the body uses oxygen, which can damage cells. Unfortunately, just like an expensive car, your brain can be damaged if you ingest anything other than premium fuel. If substances from low premium fuel, such as what you get from processed or refined foods, get to the brain, it has little ability to get rid of them. Diets high in refined sugars, for example, are harmful to the brain. In addition to worsening your body's regulation of insulin, they also promote inflammation and oxidative stress. Multiple studies have found a correlation between a diet high in refined sugars and impaired brain function, and even a worsening of symptoms of mood disorders such as depression. That's Harvard Medical School. That didn't come from me, guys. So I want you to know I'm not just talking to speak. This is backed by medical science. I'm not a doctor. Talk to your doctor. So, what you eat will either hurt or help how you feel, right? Now, when we are talking about anxiety and depression, there are two key nutrients that are most important. Now, these are not the only ones that are important, but they are very important, and they are the ones that we do not get from our typical American diet. The first one is magnesium. Magnesium is all important to your mental health. It is also the one nutrient that we don't get in our diet because we strip it out of flour, we strip it out of our rice. What do you think is they're doing when they turn whole wheat flour into all-purpose flour? They're taking out the wheat germ. That's where all the nutrients are. That's why they have to spray vitamins on the flour just to replace some of what they've taken out, but they don't put magnesium back into the flour. That's what enriched flour means. It means they add vitamins to it. They have to do that because they just took the vitamins out of it. But they don't add magnesium. So that's why, the one study I read, and I can't remember where it was, I think it was the Mayo Clinic. Don't quote me on that. I'm not totally sure. But I think it was the Mayo Clinic. They said that as much as 80% of the population is deficient in magnesium because of our typical diet, which emphasizes white flour, white rice and, high red meat consumption. So you're not getting, I will tell you right off the bat, you're not getting enough magnesium. Okay? So what foods are high in magnesium? It's all the usual suspects. It's fruits, it's vegetables, it is brown rice, whole wheat flour, whole grains of all kinds, nuts especially are high in magnesium. As a matter of fact, 1 ounce of almonds, 1 ounce, will give you 20% of your recommended daily requirement of magnesium. Just 1 ounce of almonds. So, this is the first step. And this was a step that I took even before God healed me. I had to change my diet. And look, that's not easy. Because if you're used to eating white rice, it is going to take some time to get used to eating brown rice. Brown rice also takes a lot longer to cook. I can cook a pot of white rice in like 20 minutes. It takes over an hour to cook brown rice. That's why I cook a lot of it and I freeze it. So, Look, and if push comes to shove, they do actually now make instant brown rice. I would prefer you make your own, but I would rather you eat instant brown rice than not eat brown rice at all. Right? They are, because of, people are becoming more and more conscious of this. So now food manufacturers are starting to make things like that. And look, magnesium is getting all the publicity now on social media, right? Over the last couple of years, like all the social media influencers are talking about magnesium, all right? Which makes me angry because I've been talking about magnesium for 13 years, But I don't have a YouTube channel, so. But you can ask my youth group. I was a youth pastor 11 or 12 years ago, and I told my youth group about this. So, because young people are especially susceptible to mental health issues that are directly linked to your diet. So look, what you eat matters, guys. You don't just eat to satisfy your hunger. When you eat, you're actually supposed to be providing your body with the nutrients it needs to function properly. And if you don't, then you know what? You're not going to function properly. So look, you guys know how much I hate broccoli, right? I think I've mentioned that, right? Broccoli's my second least favorite word in all the English language, right? The first is wheat. The second is broccoli. So, but I eat broccoli because I have to. It's very high in magnesium. But you know what I do? I put it in a blender with some fruit and I mix it up. So I get all the benefits of broccoli without having to taste broccoli. Praise God, guys.
Dip it in chocolate.
There you go, yeah. And that's a great point because a lot of people, they'll pour like cheese over it, and it just, you're still getting the broccoli. Or they'll fry it, which, that's the worst thing you can do to broccoli is to fry it. So, but, as a matter of fact, let me tell you something. I'll give you a quick recipe that I use for my smoothies, right? I put 140 grams or 5 ounces, that's 5 ounces of mixed fruit in 2.5 ounces of mixed berries, 3 ounces each of broccoli and carrots. I add milk, about 8 ounces. For my wife, I do almond milk. And then another 10 ounces of water. You blend that up until it's smooth. It's actually delicious. You don't taste the broccoli, trust me. If I did, I probably wouldn't drink it. But it gives, let me tell you something. Go ahead, what?
There's always sauteing it with herbs and spices.
I do that as well. Yeah, I do admit that. I do saute broccoli and eat it as well. But in a smoothie, the recipe I just gave you will give you just about all the nutrients you are going to need for a typical day. And it has less than 250 calories total. Now combine that with a McDonald's meal that gives you basically nothing that you're going to need as far as nutrients, and it's probably 1,500 calories. You don't really have to go far to know why we're all so overweight, right? Not you guys, me. But again, I'm not a doctor, guys. Talk to your doctor, and this is especially true for what I'm about to say. For those of you who suffer from anxiety, it may be necessary to also supplement with magnesium. Again, talk to a medical health professional before you start taking anything, even an over-the-counter supplement. Okay, but a supplement is not a substitute for a bad diet. If you change your diet and you still are experiencing anxiety, you may need to supplement with magnesium. I do. I supplement with magnesium. I give my wife magnesium, and I'll tell you how much I believe in the power of magnesium. My wife takes magnesium, my daughter takes magnesium, my mother takes magnesium. And I don't know about my siblings, I've recommended it to them as well. All right? They all take magnesium for one reason or another. Because you simply are not going to, and my daughter especially, because she doesn't eat a lot. It's funny, when she comes to visit, I'm like, are you hungry? She's like, no, I don't feel like eating. She doesn't eat it. She doesn't eat, almost anything. So she definitely needs a supplement. So there are two forms of magnesium that are the most absorbable in your body. And that is magnesium citrate and magnesium glycinate. Now, when I started taking magnesium 13 years ago, or actually more than that, it's like 14 or 15 years ago, the only magnesium I could find readily available was magnesium citrate. Magnesium glycinate is actually easier to digest, but it wasn't very, very widely available 15 years ago. It is now because everybody's talking about magnesium. I actually found magnesium glycinate in my supermarket. So that's how easily available it is now. And it is the most absorbable form of magnesium. Okay, again, talk to your doctor. The other any questions on that? Any comments? Now look, I'm not touting any miracle cures here. I'm not telling you that all of a sudden you're going to be free of symptoms. There are people that have found that their symptoms do go away once they start supplementing. Because look, if your condition is based solely on your nutrition, then once you fix your nutrition, you will fix the problem. Now, there is anxiety and depression that is not solely based on your nutrition. So remember that. I'm not touting. A lot of people on social media will tout this as some miracle cure. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it is necessary and it will help. The other nutrient is vitamin D. Now, you don't get vitamin D from your diet. You only get vitamin D from the sun. And unfortunately, if you live in the north, you don't get vitamin D from the sun either between November and April. You only get vitamin D from the sun during spring and summer, because that's when the sun climbs high enough in the sky for the radiation to pierce the atmosphere. So a lot of us could use a vitamin D supplement. And the best, most absorbable form of vitamin D is vitamin D3. Okay, again, talk to your doctor. I'm going to keep repeating that. So vitamin D, and that's especially relevant for depression, because let me tell you something, if you are deficient in vitamin D, you're going to feel depressed. That is the most common symptom of a vitamin D deficiency. And it should be the first thing your doctor checks if you tell them that you are feeling depressed. So I will say this for my doctor. The one time I did talk to him about depression, he did check my vitamin D levels. So, he wanted to give me a prescription for vitamin D. I'm like, dude, I can just buy that at the supermarket. So yeah, vitamin D for depression, magnesium for anxiety. Any questions on that? Again, talk to your doctor, okay? The second thing that is important for your health is exercise. All right, this is from the Mayo Clinic website. Exercise helps prevent and improve many health problems, including high blood pressure, diabetes, and arthritis. Research on depression, anxiety, and exercise shows that the mental health and physical benefits of exercise also can help mood get better and lessen anxiety. Regular exercise may help ease depression and anxiety by releasing feel-good endorphins. Endorphins are natural brain chemicals that can improve your sense of well-being, taking your mind off worries. Thinking about something else instead of worrying can get you away from the cycle of negative thoughts that feed depression and anxiety. Now that harkens back to last week when we talked about changing how you think, right? And this is extremely important. The more you dwell on something, the worse it's going to get. So, it might not be bad in and of itself, but the more you dwell on it, the worse it's going to get in your mind. So, but this also, if you exercise, gives you something else to think about. right? And look, I'm not talking about becoming a professional athlete, okay? I'm not talking about getting into the gym for 3 hours. Something as little as taking a brisk walk for 30 minutes, 5 days a week is enough to improve your health and and especially your mental health. So you don't need to be a world-class weightlifter to improve your health with exercise. Walking is a very good exercise, right, Bob?
Absolutely.
Bob still walks every day, don't you, Bob?
Yes.
90 years old. I don't walk every day. I should, but I don't. So exercise. Any questions on that? I think that's pretty simple, right? I mean, I'm not making any controversial statements, and I'm backing it up with reliable sources. Go ahead. Did I have trouble with your voice?
Yes, I acted right today. I just want to attest to the validity of that. It also works with stress. My doctor, before she retired, was wonderful. And we couldn't figure out why my body just wouldn't do. It was just overly tired, just couldn't function properly. Went through all these tests and blood work and everything was fine. And so she just said, we were just having conversations, and she was like, oh, I got it. It's stress. And I'm like, I don't stress about anything. It just rolls off my back like water on a duck. But apparently, I was internalizing things, and I was stressing. And so her prescription for me was a 20-minute walk every day. And it worked, it helped. And I also, when we were talking last week about the way that you think, and just encouraging, like one of the things that was my focus, scripture was Philippians 4:8. You know, I would remind myself of those things, and then I started doing these, what I call God science, and that helped reshift my focus to like, okay, even though I don't think I'm stressed, I must be stressing. So let me think on some good things, and just being grateful and positive, and finding the God in every type of moment, just finding God's side. It's like, oh wow, look at that thing. It's just amazing that even plants and things and how they grow, just absolutely astounding to me. And so that helps, you know, and I've used it with some of my friends. I've had a few suicidal friends, and that helped them moment by moment. It wasn't a cure, but it was something to give them when they were struggling, to just little things, to find the little things to focus on.
Absolutely. Like your shoes, by the way, they're beautiful. See, there's something positive in there. And you know what? That's, you know, you mentioned that's a key point. We're not talking about some magic cure, but this is something that helps you manage. It helps you manage, and these things build on themselves. So it's you know, if you maintain an exercise regimen, the benefits will build on themselves over time. So when I was doing this, before God completely healed me, I did find that it was helpful as I was, you know, diligent in doing these things, in eating right and exercising. And even now, after I've been doing this for, you know, a decade and a half, I find that when I slip up and I don't eat right, I start to feel off. You know, I start to, those negative emotions start to come back, and I have to remind myself, no, that's just because you ate all that garbage yesterday. You need to fix that. And, you know, or maybe you didn't take your walk yesterday, or do your exercises. So, you know, these things will build on themselves over time. But, you know, and listen, here's the problem with that, right? Because there is one major flaw in what I'm telling you, especially when it concerns exercise. When you're depressed, you don't have the energy to do that. You really don't feel like exercising when you're depressed or you're anxious. And this is the hurdle that you have to get past. It is in your own mind. You have to get past that hurdle and force yourself. Look, when I started exercising at 245 pounds, it was the hardest thing in the world I have ever had to do, because I wasn't sleeping. I had zero energy, and I was depressed. I didn't feel like doing anything. That's one of the symptoms of depression, is that you just lose interest in everything. So it really was a matter of mind over matter, right? It's just pushing myself and saying, look, I may not feel like doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I know sooner or later it is going to benefit me. And that is the decision you have to make. And, you have to overrule your feelings and overrule your thinking. Just like we talked about last week, you've got to change your mindset. What was the first thing that verse of Philippians says? Whatsoever things are true, right? What are the true things that you should be thinking about? Well, the true thing is that although you don't feel like taking a walk, if you do it, it's going to make you feel better. That's true. So whatsoever things are true, that's the very first thing you've got to acknowledge. This is true. Exercise will benefit me. So even though I don't feel like it, I'm going to do it. And I'm not saying this is easy, guys. I've been through it, and it's hard. It is very, very, very hard. Go ahead.
The key point is to start.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key point, because that's the worst part. Once you do it, then you the next says, oh, you know what? Let me try it. And once you get in the rhythm of it, I guarantee you, within a week, you get stimulated by yourself. And same with food. It's very hard. The first week is the worst. That's when you want to quit, and you need somebody to kind of encourage you at the way. But that's the key. If you pass that hurdle, then you will notice the difference, and that will encourage you even more.
Yeah, two things on that. Number one, you need to find support. Fortunately, my wife and I did this together when I did this the first time. My wife wanted to lose some weight because after having the baby, after having our daughter, she had gained a few pounds and she wanted to lose weight. And so we did it together. We exercised together. We put meal plan together. So it helps find some support. The Bible tells us, and I believe it's Proverbs. Yeah, it's not Psalms. It must be Proverbs, right? It's either it has to be. Don't quote me on this because I'm just But I think it's in Proverbs. It says two are better than one, right? Because if one falls down, there's the other one is there to pick them up. But woe to the person who falls down by themselves, right? Well, find somebody who's going to support you. They may not exercise with you, but find somebody who's going to encourage you and lift you up and tell you that that it's worth it to push you to continue, right? And the other thing is, as far as what she said about being consistent, right? So the very first step is always the hardest. The first day is always the hardest. But I have found that after about 3 weeks, your body gets so used to it that you actually will do it even when you don't feel like it. Now, I remember when I first started, it was actually a month for me, not 3 weeks. It was about a month. After a full month of doing this regularly, I got to a point where there was a day where I hadn't slept particularly well, and I was like, I'm going to skip my workout today. But when the time came for my workout, I felt like my body was preparing itself. And there is medical science behind this. When you do something regularly, your body, knowing that it's coming, will prepare itself for that activity. So I found myself like waking up, feeling more energetic, even though I hadn't done anything. So it's like, the whole thing is to just be consistent. Eventually, it becomes automatic. And even when you don't feel like it, your body will tell you, hey, it's time to do this thing. Any other comments, questions? All right. So the third thing, and this is going to be the most difficult because, especially at first, and that is sleep. You've got to get enough sleep. Now that is hard when you are anxious, especially. It is very difficult to sleep when you have anxiety. Because your mind is constantly racing, and the same thing with depression. I mean, you're dwelling on all these negative thoughts, and one of the things I had to learn, and again, it goes back to last week, how you think, right? One of the things I had to learn was to quiet my mind at night. And look, that's not easy. But we did talk about how you can control your thoughts, right? You can take those thoughts captive, as we said, 2 Corinthians 10:5. You can take those thoughts captive and make them obedient to Christ. Right? So you've got to do that. You've got to start practicing that. When those thoughts come, you can literally tell yourself, shut up. Because that's what I do. Okay? My wife thinks I'm nuts. Because I'm in the middle of the night, I'm like, shut up. You know. She's right, I am. You know, that's beside the point. So I know how hard that's going to be. Once you change your diet and start to exercise, it actually gets easier to sleep. All right? Now, there are a couple of things that, I'm sorry, before I get to that, this is from the Columbia University School of Psychiatry website. Sleep deprivation studies show that otherwise healthy people can experience increased anxiety and distress levels following poor sleep. Those with mental health disorders are even more likely to experience chronic sleep problems, and in turn, these sleep problems are likely to exacerbate psychiatric symptoms and even increase risk for suicide. So it becomes like a feedback loop, where you're too anxious to be able to sleep, and then the lack of sleep feeds that anxiety, and you feel even worse, and it just feeds on itself. So now there's a few things that you can do to help yourself, right? Number one is to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Now this is especially true if you're on like vacation, because a lot of us, when we have a day off or we're on vacation, we like to sleep in, right? Nothing better than sleeping in on a Saturday morning when you've had a hard week, right? It's also one of the things that will disrupt your sleep pattern. So you need to prioritize getting to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. It goes back to what we were saying about your body getting used to certain things and preparing you for those things. If you go to bed at the same time every night, eventually you're going to find that your body starts to feel sleepy during that time. And if you wake up at the same time every night, you're going to find that you automatically kind of wake up. One of the things that drives me crazy is I will wake up most of the time before my alarm. Because I've been doing this for so long. I wake up at the exact same time every day. So even before my alarm goes off, my body's like, hey, it's time to get up. And then I go, shut up. And then I go back to sleep. So
I can actually verify that when I first retired, because of my regimen of the sleep pattern for work, for a good 3 to 6 months after that, my body was still used to getting up at a certain time of morning. And so whether you think that you can just say, oh, well, I'll just go back to sleep. No, you're going to lay there awake because your body is ready to go.
Yeah, and our bodies have an amazing ability to adapt. And that's basically what we're talking about here, is helping our body to adapt and help ourselves. And once you do something on a regular basis, your body will adapt to it. Mm-hmm. And on the negative side of that coin is why medications are often ineffective. Because you take a certain dose of a medication, but your body gets used to that. And eventually you have to take a higher dose than that in order to get the same effect. So your body is very adaptable on both sides of the coin. And look, I have a problem with medication in general when it comes to mental health. I actually read a study by the National Institute of Health, right? Now, these pharmaceutical companies will conduct studies, but they're not always required to report the results of those studies. So if the study results don't match up with what they want, they don't report the results. They only report the results of studies that match up with what they want, what they want to see. Now, what the National Institute of Health did one time was for a couple of years, they told these pharmaceutical companies, if you are going to register for the study, you have to report the results no matter what. And they found that for mental health medicines, the effectiveness of those medicines were no better than a placebo. Because those pharmaceutical companies had to report those results. Do your own research. Okay, you'll find these same studies. I tell you guys this all the time. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm not God. I'm not infallible. Do your own research. You will find out these same things that I have found out. And I have another thing, one of the other things I worry about with medications is the side effects. Because you never end up taking just one medication. There's always a side effect that you have to take another medication to treat. And then you might end up with a third medication to treat the side effects from that medication. Let me give you an example. This is crazy, okay? Think about this for just a second. The most widely prescribed antidepressant, right? There is a side effect called tardive dyskinesia. You know what tardive dyskinesia is? It is uncontrollable movements of your face or arms, right? And these could be permanent. Okay, so that's one thing. So there is a medication for tardive dyskinesia. So you've taken this mental health medication, this antidepressant. Now you got to take this medication for tardive dyskinesia. Do you know what one of the side effects is of tardive dyskinesia? Depression. Can somebody please make sense of that for me? So you're treating your depression, you're taking medication to treat the tardive dyskinesia, and that medication is going to make you depressed. And so you're going to have to take a third medication because there is another medication that is formulated to work with your original antidepressant. So you stay on that one, but since that one, they say if you're not making the amount of progress you want to make, you can add this medication to it. Well, I would say the reason you're not making progress is because you're taking this other medication that's causing you to be depressed. Okay, I'm sorry.
This concludes that part of the sentence.
I know. You know what? I get worked up, guys. I'm serious. Because, and look, part of it is our fault. I don't blame the doctors all the time on this because I have known people that go to the doctor specifically and tell them, give me a prescription. And many people will do that. We are so lazy. We just want a pill for everything. Just give me a pill that will solve all of my problems. And we're willing to take all these medications and put all these drugs in our bodies because we're too lazy to do the things that will help us. You know what? Stop it. That's the only thing I can tell you. Get, what sort of things are true? Think on these things. The truth is, if you mind your health, you will not have to be on so many medications. Look, you may have a condition that you need medication for. There's nothing wrong with taking a prescription if you need it. There is something wrong with taking a prescription when a change in your diet and exercise will solve your problem. Just like when I was having sleep apnea, I could have had a tracheotomy. And I'd be holding that trying to talk to you, right? Or I could have, sucked it up and realized that I was hurting myself and made the changes that I needed to make to solve my problem, which I did. And now I don't have to hold it. Go ahead, Bruce.
I'm of the mindset that medications are great, but they should only be used as a temporary stopgap measurement until you can get the long-term nutritional imbalance solved.
Yeah.
Because nutritional imbalance can cause chemical imbalances.
Absolutely.
They hurt the body.
Yeah.
Long term.
I mean, if you have a migraine, it's great if you could get rid of it, but you want to know, well, why am I having them?
Exactly. And look, I will say that medical colleges are kind of starting to tap into this. More and more medical colleges are offering nutrition classes to its doctors. So this is starting to be more and more of a conversation, and it should be. Because I read somebody, a doctor once said that if we ate right, if we exercised just 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and got enough sleep, we would eradicate about 85% of the things that we suffer from in this country. And I absolutely agree with that. I'm 55 years old. I am on no prescriptions. Okay? And some people are surprised to hear that. Because my generation, people of my age, are usually on several prescriptions. And, praise be to God. I thank God for that. Part of that is luck, I guess. But a part of that is that I'm taking the steps to mind my health. Go ahead, Maria.
On that same migraine point, that's why I don't put sugar in my coffee anymore. I mean, I still drink coffee, but I haven't put sugar in my coffee since 2019 because I realized when I was doing that and putting an excessive amount of sugar in my coffee, it was giving me migraines. And so at that time, I didn't know that. And so I was trying to figure out what was getting me these really debilitating migraines. And so when I traced everything back to what I happened to be consuming, ever since it took a little bit because the taste was different, but after that, I didn't miss it. So now, I guess because my taste changed at kind of more growing as an adult, I kind of find it a lot more sweeter putting it in than not having it.
Yeah. And that will happen, like we said, you will adapt. Look, it is a transition to go from eating white rice to eating brown rice. But I found, now that I've been eating brown rice for over a decade, I can't eat white rice anymore. It doesn't have any substance to it. I actually like the chewiness of brown rice. It's the same thing with wheat flour. Like, have you ever known, you probably don't know this, if you've only eaten white bread, take it from someone who eats wheat bread, white bread doesn't taste like anything. That's why we have to put so much mayonnaise or butter or whatever on it, because it doesn't have any flavor of its own. I could eat a piece of wheat toast by itself if it's well made, because it actually has flavor. Go ahead.
A lot of restaurants usually will give you some bread to start your meal, and depending upon the restaurant that you're in, some of them actually. I'm not talking about rolls. I'm talking about actual bread.
Mm-hmm.
And so some restaurants will actually give you like a variety of bread, like maybe 2 or 3 different kinds. I could eat it all because I love bread. And we're not talking about the white bread. We're talking about, pumpernickel or rye bread or, all various kinds. It's great, and especially if it's warm.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good.
Warm with a good quality butter, a little bit of salt.
It's the best. That's a meal in and of itself if you let it.
I'll tell you, I love bread. If I told my wife if I ever develop celiac disease, just shoot me. Just shoot me. I have tried gluten-free food. You know what gluten-free food needs? It needs gluten. Whatever gluten is, it's delicious, guys. It just is not the same. And since I changed my diet, I have, examined like different types of bread. Like Wegmans makes a really good 27 grain bread that they bake in-house. And it is delicious. I could eat that for a meal because it is so good. And so, once you start doing this, it's very difficult at first. And I just want you to understand that I know that it's difficult. I've gone through it. But I'm telling you, if you put in the effort, and this is what we're talking about. That's basically what I'm saying here is you need to put in the effort. Listen, God is not obligated to bless you if you're making bad decisions. And that goes for your life as well as your health. For example, if I drive 120 miles an hour on the highway and I happen to get into an accident, I would pray that God would heal me of whatever injuries I sustained. But guess what? Guess who's to blame for that accident? It's me, right? So God's not obligated to heal me. And God was not obligated to heal me when I wasn't taking care of my health. As a matter of fact, God did not heal me until I made all these changes. And all these changes made a difference. They didn't completely heal me. But I've told you this many, many times. If we do what we can do, God will do what we can't do. And that's exactly the experience I have had. When I did what I could do by changing my diet, by exercising, by minding my sleep pattern, then God was able to step in and do what I couldn't do. And He healed me completely. Go ahead, Bruce.
I recommend a good source for nutrition. Barbara O'Neill, I think that's the name. I came across some of her videos, and she talks about nutrition a lot. And it comes to I come to find out, it's because she's a Seventh-day Adventist, and they're big on that.
Look, and look, you can, there are nutritionists you can go to. Your doctor should have a basic knowledge of nutrition. That's why I say, you know what, you need to have these conversations with your doctor. All right? If your doctor wants to talk to you for 10 minutes and write your prescription, my recommendation is find a new doctor. All right? You find a doctor who's willing to talk to you and examine everything that is going on in your life. And really, push you to make the right choices. Right? Okay, let me get through this. Anybody else before I continue? Because I want to get through these last few points.
There is one other
Go ahead.
thing, and that is, depending upon when it is that you put yourself to bed, the last thing you want to do is consume anything that has caffeine in it between like 6 and 10 o'clock or something like that. Because caffeine is only going to make you want to be awake and active. So, if you think you're going to just go to bed and drop off to sleep, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. The people who need coffee to sleep, that what we call that is addiction. So my grandmother was one of those people. She could not sleep without her cup of coffee, but that's because she was addicted to it. But that is one of the points I have here when it comes to sleep. Go ahead, Mali.
But also, granted, in my perception, I feel like caffeine sometimes affects certain people differently.
It does, yes.
And, I feel too, for example, if I have coffee, for example, even if it's small, to me, it's warm. And, even though I'll still be able to sleep, but, to have something warm before I go to sleep, if that makes sense.
I would recommend tea. A decaffeinated tea. But look, you're right though. Every one of us is different. We react differently to everything. So you need to find what it is that that works for you within these parameters, right? But I will give you these guidelines. These are things that I have researched and things that I do myself. Is as Jack just said, is avoid caffeine at least 6 hours before bed. Now I have to do that because I am very sensitive to caffeine. If I have a cup of coffee before bed, I'm up at least for the next 6 hours. So, for me, I cannot have caffeine after 3 p.m. So that's just me. The other thing is avoid your device screens for at least 2 hours before bed, or they do sell UV blocking glasses. It's I think it's UVB, don't quote me on that. It's the blue light that comes from your screens that is a signal to your brain that it is time to wake up. So you need to block that blue light before you are going to bed. And so, better not to not to be looking at your screens. But if you're like me, you like to watch a little television to relax before going to bed, use one of those, use those UV glasses to block the blue light, right? And the last thing is that melatonin can help you fall asleep. Talk to your doctor first. But my wife and I do take a melatonin tablet about 45 minutes before bed. It does help me to fall asleep faster because that was my problem. My problem was getting to sleep. Once I was asleep, it was impossible to wake me up. But getting to sleep was my problem. So melatonin has helped me. Do not take melatonin until you talk to your doctor. Go ahead.
I heard this years ago, but one thing, I don't even know if it's helpful, is training your body and your mind to kind of know what things are. For example, if you need to teach your body and your mind to learn that your bed is specifically for sleeping, or if you do things, for example, if you sit on the bed or something like that, if you do things kind of that are other than sleeping, then it's going to teach your body that, for example, that's not meant for what it's supposed to. So, if you use your phone, for example, you could sit at a desk, you could sit on the couch, but, your bed is specifically for sleeping. Now, I don't know if that's completely true, but, that's kind of...
Actually, I have the sleep doctor that I went to when I had sleep apnea did mention that. So sleep professionals will tell you that your bed should only be for sleeping. You should not be scrolling on your phone. You should not be watching TV in bed. You should, when you get into bed, your body should be thinking, oh, it must be time to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So you should not be doing anything else except sleep. Go ahead, Bob.
I've never had that problem.
So you've just been bored this whole time, Bob.
When I went to bed, I went sound asleep.
Well, you also had a very difficult job. So, I do find that people who have physical jobs, they don't have any trouble sleeping. So,
Never had any problem.
my brother has been in construction basically his entire adult life. And you know what? When he gets to bed, he's gone. So because he spent his entire day, working hard. He's up. You usually get to those construction sites at like 6, 7 a.m. So yeah, he's in bed by 9, and don't even bother trying to wake up at that point. But for someone like me who works an office job, it's a lot harder because I don't do a lot of physical activity during the day. So it's I'm not using up all that energy that I have. So I will say, you know what happened since I mentioned that, for anybody who does work in an office, I read a doctor say that if you stand up just for 2 minutes every 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
you can mitigate the negative impact of sitting all day long. So this is what I will do. Every 30 minutes, I will stand up for at least 2 minutes. And I actually found that it helps. Like usually when I was, before I started doing that, when I would leave the office, I'd feel tired, even though I hadn't done anything. Now when I leave the office, I feel pretty good because I've done that. Go ahead, Mario, and then Jen.
I was gonna say, I work freelance for the entertainment industry, and I'm often on a lot of different sets, depending on how big those sets are and how big the crew is. Sometimes, and the schedule too, for that matter, there's a lot of different kind of wait times and wait periods before you're called to do kind of your part in the said production. And that actually has been helpful. When you're sitting for a long time, and depending on how long set is, you sometimes tend to either like doze off or kind of stare into space, but also we have found too, like helping each other, like if you kind of walk around and kind of busy yourself, it kind of helps to more mitigate that.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jen.
Two things actually. One is a lot of companies, even over the last 10, 15 years, have started installing workstations where you can stand instead of sit.
Yep.
Or something that is flexible where you can actually do both, but you can actually get and you can work on the computer while you're standing.
Absolutely.
That's one. Two, being a little bit old school, I guess. I had an office job, and email and texting is they're nice technologies, but they can be ignored. And so my job was that I kind of handled the budget for the company as well as project reporting. And I found that if I got up and actually went to someone's office where they couldn't ignore me, I was more apt to get the information that I needed. So
You're a hard person to ignore.
Well, you have to do it tactfully.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I was dealing with all levels of management of the company. But the point I'm making is that I'm for technology. I really am. But I think it has its time and place, and I think sometimes you have to supplement that. So
And it goes back to understanding what we need to do to help ourselves, right? It is not going to help you to sit all day long. It's not good for your health. It's definitely not good for your mental health. So, whether you get up and walk around or whether you just stand and, for a couple of minutes, you need to do what you should be doing in order to mind your health. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, kind of piggybacking off of your point too, that a lot of companies now kind of have, not programs, but like they have like certain areas of the building, where either like if you're on lunch, you can have like, you know, quiet hours, or also too, like if you kind of, for example, when I went to Nickelodeon, the Nickelodeon campus on an internship, they have the little swings where you can kind of see out onto the outer grounds of campus, so you can get like a lot more. You can like see outside, you can see the greenery, and kind of it helps still, you know, stimulate you to get the work done, but it helps you to relax at the same time.
Yeah, and you know, companies are getting wise to this, because, you know, I think they realize healthy employees are productive employees.
Mm-hmm.
You know, actually, my local Wegmans, when I go to Wegmans to the supermarket, they have a room off to the side, and you'll see the employees gathered there, like exercising, just doing simple little things. So yes, a lot of companies are doing that. You need to take, if your company is one of those companies, take advantage of it. Anybody else?
Well,
Go ahead.
isn't unloading a tractor trailer exercise?
Absolutely it is. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if I was in management, I'd say, there's your room.
Typing on a computer is not. So,
You know what I'm saying?
anybody else? Listen, bottom line is, God does not want you feeling anxious or depressed, okay? Psalms 94:18 and 19 says, when I said my foot is slipping, your unfailing love, Lord, supported me. When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy. And Matthew 11:28 through 30 says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. But God doesn't want you feeling anxious. He doesn't want you feeling depressed. But He has given you some tools to help yourself. And, you know, we need to do that. Like I said before, God's not obligated to bless you or to heal you if you are making bad decisions. God was not obligated to heal me of my sleep apnea when I let myself balloon up to 245 pounds. I did that. That wasn't God's responsibility. It was my responsibility to recognize that I was killing myself and to do something about it. Once I did something about it, then God came and He helped me the rest of the way. So, as I always say, if you do what you can do, God will do what you can't. But take the steps. Take the steps to do what you can before God will take your hand and take the rest of the way. Anybody? Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Because the nature of my job, because the nature of my job, we get training, believe it or not, on how to take care of ourselves, like sleep, especially the sleeping aspect. One thing that they recommend is the temperature in your room. Believe it or not, that's very important too. Even when you're anxious, you use the other techniques, but the temperature in your room need to be a certain temperature, cool temperature. They said that helps your body to relax and to sleep better. So that's one of the points they give us on training. And then there's another one for anxiety. They said breathing when you are having an episode or you are getting with the stress level, to take a minute, recognize it, first of all, that you're under stress. And then take a minute and take a breathing. They said breathe. That's something that I caught myself not doing a lot of times, especially when you confronted with a situation. You stop. And they said, you're surprised if you take a minute and breathe. Take deep breath, go yourself on a corner, take a few seconds, take good deep breath, and that you'll be surprised how that brings your system down and relax you. That's another very important way to go about it. But sleep is very important, and recognize the timing. And when you're tired, and if you can, nap. Take a nap. I mean, I'm not a nappy person. I'm horrible about it, but I'm learning. When your body's tired and you're really beat up and call for that quick nap, take at least, I believe it's an hour to 45 minutes to an hour, so you can do your REM, your whole cycle, and you'll be surprised how that boosts your system and relax you at the same time.
If you have the time.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
This might be trivia, but I heard that, our bodies produce nitric oxide, okay? And that's supposed to help relax your blood vessels and lower your blood pressure. Now, you can buy nitric oxide tablets to take, because as you get older, you don't produce as much. Maybe it's a nutritional deficiency that causes it or not. But I heard that this guy discovered that if you hum for a half an hour a day, it increases your nitric oxide. So, and singing is a form of humming almost. So, I mean, there's healing in singing.
Actually, there have been studies. I don't know about the nitric oxide. Talk to your doctor. I'm just going to keep saying that for everyone.
Free stuff.
I don't know about the nitric oxide. I have read a study that said that singing for, I think it's 20 minutes, will actually reduce your blood pressure. So, again, talk to your doctor. Go ahead, Maria.
I've also heard too, like sleep, obviously sleep is important. The amount of sleep that you get is also important as well. But like when you do sleep, the certain hours that you do, there are like multiple, like I don't want to say different REM cycles, but there are like multiple cycles that happen while you sleep, from when you go to sleep to when you wake up. And definitely if you deplete that, they actually say that like certain cycles don't happen as efficiently as they should, and with that, like you will definitely feel the repercussions of that when you wake up that next morning.
And that's why it's so important to practice sleep hygiene, because it's not just the amount of sleep, it is the quality of sleep as well. Go ahead, Jim.
To build on what Marielle was saying, I know for a really long time, didn't they always, doctors or whoever would recommend that you sleep 8 hours or in increments of 4 hours? Because that's supposed to be the total amount of time that a normal cycle takes place. So if you're doing 6 hours, you're actually having that second 4 hours. And I don't know how really good that is for you. Now, I don't know, has the thought on that changed at all? Because it used to be, you would always hear, you should get 8 hours, you should get 8 hours.
Yeah, that was when we were growing up, I should say, because you're the same generation as I am. When we were growing up, that was the predominant wisdom. That has actually changed in recent years. Because there are people that actually function quite well on less sleep. So nowadays they give you a range. I believe it's anywhere from 7 to 9. Depending on the individual. Yeah, because we're all individuals.
Yeah, and the key, like for us, the key is fatigue. If you don't get your rest, it's just like a domino effect. From your eating to your resting to your sleeping is very important, because when you're anxious, all these other things develop, and you need to rest, because you don't function properly when you are anxious or you are depleted of rest. So rest is very important, and like you said, you have to eat well to be able to rest well. And if you don't rest well, then you don't function well, and then that's your body start collapsing.
And that's the thing, like we said, it becomes a snowball effect. Yeah. It starts to feed on itself, and you got to get that snowball rolling in the other direction. So you know what? It's very difficult at first, guys, especially when it comes to sleep, because you're not gonna solve that problem until you solve the other one. When you get the diet and the exercise, that's when you're gonna find that your sleep is much better. But all of these strategies will help you to kind of build on the progress that you make. Go ahead.
So if you're spiraling down into anxiety and you feel, oh my gosh, I'm very anxious, all these negative thoughts are bombarding you, I think of 3 things to do. The first thing, 3 deep breaths. Right? Second thing, go and 3 times ice cold water on your face. Ice cold water on your face. and then just stand there and say a prayer of gratitude, 3 things that you're grateful for. And that'll disrupt the cycle.
Yeah.
It'll disrupt it for a moment. Then maybe, take a walk or do something else. But those 3 things I think are pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of differ on the details of that. But the premise is exactly correct. Is when you feel like you are spiraling, you got to find a way to stop that. And whether it's to get out and take a walk, to call somebody, to take deep breaths, whatever it takes to stop that. I literally tell myself to stop, and sometimes that does work. But whatever it is for you that will stop that train from rolling is what you need to do, and then get it rolling in the opposite direction. You had something, Bruce? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of simplistic, but I think it's important. I had a insight that years ago that when I'm tired and worn out, it is harder for me to be disciplined and to resist temptation, whether it's sin temptation or thoughts or whether it's eating. Because when you come home tired, all you're thinking about is, I want that comfort food. I'm not going to eat salad. I'm going to eat some ice cream.
Salad's not comforting.
You know what I'm saying?
There is nothing comforting about romaine lettuce and
The Rocky Road ice cream. There you go.
Every day, Bruce, every day.
That's right.
Well, and unfortunately that is the exact reason that I was 245 pounds at one time.
That's a cycle that feeds back on itself.
And that's the thing, and that's what we're talking about, guys. You gotta stop the snowball rolling in the direction it's rolling, and you gotta get it rolling in the opposite direction.
What?
And the
You're not the
Bible
only
is
one
so
that feels
clear.
about ice cream.
I know. We're all, we have Achilles' heels for ice cream.
The Bible is a guidebook, believe it or not. I mean, when you look in there, it's just so specific. They tell you what not to eat, what to eat, how to eat it, but we don't pay attention.
And that's interesting because the Israelite diet was very specific.
Yeah.
God was very specific with them on what they could and could not eat, and they were very healthy people. It was when they started adopting the customs of the nations around them that they started to suffer.
That's why the Mediterranean diet is so popular now, because they're finding out it's so healthy. But it makes me laugh because that's what they were eating then. The grains.
And look, when we're talking about diet, it's very helpful if you go and you look up the populations in this world that have the highest lifespans. You're actually going to find that Chinese or Japanese, those Asian cultures have the highest, the longest lifespans. And if you look at their diets are very high in fish, in vegetables, and things like that. Look, they eat meat, but in moderation. I mean, I've very rarely seen a fat Asian. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Maybe that's racist, and I'm sorry if it does sound that way. I don't mean it that way.
Sumo wrestlers.
Huh?
Sumo wrestlers.
Yeah, well, they're intentional about that. Yeah. They intentionally did that way, it's when you look at the diet, and again, the Mediterranean diet is another one. It's very, very high in fruits and vegetables, and very low on meat. The American diet is the exact opposite. It is high on meat and very low on fruits and vegetables, and we fry everything. Okay, I mean, yeah. There is nothing in this world that I have not seen them fry. Matter of fact, one of my favorite shows, and I'm going to take a little rabbit trail here. One of my favorite shows on TV is called Carnival Eats.
Okay.
It's this guy, he goes to different carnivals around the country and samples all the food that's at the carnivals. And I am amazed at what people will fry. Okay? There are carnivals where they will just take a stick of butter, put it in batter, and fry it.
What?
I'm speechless, man. Even I wouldn't eat that. I mean, seriously.
Come to think of it, isn't raw cookie dough mostly butter?
Yeah, yeah, they have raw pea dough.
Sugar
I
and
guess,
butter?
I guess if you're dipping this in batter and frying it, it's kind of like eating like buttered toast, I guess, because
Oh, yeah.
it's just some of the things that they do. I mean, they'll put they'll put a hamburger on a stick and they'll fry it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Asparagus, they fry,
Yeah.
I've
And there was-
heard of fried ice cream.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have had fried ice cream.
Doesn't it have to be
It's
really
amazing.
cold? I mean, you stick it in nitrogen first, liquid nitrogen first.
Well, yeah, they have to freeze it to like -5 degrees or something like that. They roll it. See, where I had it, there was a restaurant that had it. They rolled it in cornflakes to fry it, right? Growing up, I ate cornflakes every day for breakfast. It was like the breakfast I had every morning as a child when I had this fried ice cream. It was amazing. Now you know why we end up getting fat, okay? Because I mean, there was another show called Man vs. Food. Do you guys remember that with Adam Richman? They have all these food challenges around the country where you got to eat like 5 pounds of this, or there's 10 pounds of that, and I mean, people will eat that. Like every year they have the hot dog eating contest at Coney Island, and these guys are eating the equivalent of like 50,000 calories or something. It's crazy. And look, we don't have to go very far to wonder why we're unhealthy. Americans, we are excessive. I mean, it's just part of our culture. We don't just want everything. We want large quantities of everything.
super size.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, like, you walk into, like, either any convenience store or anything, and instead of, like, and it's funny, because, like, my parents will, like, tease me. Instead of getting, like, not even the 10-ounce size, they have, like, all the way up to, I was actually just doing Wawa the other day, they have 32-ounce sizes of either coffee or soda, and I'm like, I mean, great, if you do, more power to you, but 32 ounces?
Yeah. Well, and in the fast food restaurants, when I was growing up, a medium meant like 16 ounces, right? A medium now is 32 ounces for anything, and then like everything unhealthy just gets bigger, And you know what? Actually, that brings up a very good point, because the one thing I do want to mention is that it is not cheap to eat healthy. The reason that people eat processed food and all this junk is because it's cheap. It is inexpensive. And convenient.
Yes.
So I recognize that what I'm telling you is going to take effort. It did take effort for me. It took effort to sit down and cook meals rather than get a frozen one, pop it in the microwave for 5 minutes, right? It is going to take effort, and yeah, it is a little more expensive to buy healthy alternatives. Okay, I will say that. But here, let me ask you this question. Those of you who suffer from anxiety and depression, what if I told you that there was a pill out there that would completely heal your symptoms, but that pill cost $500 a month? I promise you there will be a line of people willing to pay $500 a month for that pill. Well, you know what? I can't guarantee you that you're going to be completely healed, but I will tell you that a couple extra $100 a month buying good food is going to make a difference. It is going to make you feel better. Go ahead, Patty.
And on that point, there's been, I guess, not even a social media trend, but just a trend in general that, like, because people are trying to save, you can get the same recipes of your favorite stuff when you go out to restaurants, whether it's fast food or whatever. You can copy the recipe for those same dishes, and you can make them at home. And actually, when you make them at home, you can portion more for less than actually what you're paying when you go and have it.
And that's important, because when you go to a restaurant, the portion sizes are usually 2 or 3 times what you should be eating. So when you cook at home, you can portion it properly and make sure you're getting the right amounts of everything. Right?
And sometimes it even lasts longer.
I just wanted to bring, you said that it costs a little more to eat healthy, but that's a short-term cost. It will cost a lot more in the long run if you don't eat healthy, because eating healthy not only helps anxiety and depression, but it does help with all other things. So you're not paying doctor's visits, you're not paying the co-pays for other medications, you're not paying in your body being worn down, you're not paying higher premiums or insurance. So in the long run, you're saving money. You have to consider the whole cost.
Right. And that's exactly true. You know, it is a short-term cost, and you are, in the end, you will end up saving money. I mean, because even if you have insurance, every medication comes with a copay. So, you know, you could be on medication and pay, probably a couple $100s a month in co-payments for all the medications you're on, or you could take that couple $100s and buy good food. You know, that's what I choose. That's what I have chosen to do. I've chosen to spend a little extra on food. Now, look, that means because I have limited resources, that means I have to cut somewhere else. So, you know, my wife and I don't go out to eat as often as we'd like. We cook at home. But as Mariel said, you know, I found that I actually am a pretty good cook. And, there are very few restaurants that can make a meal better than me. And you can ask my wife, she's not here today, but you can ask my wife, she will tell you I have ruined her for certain foods in other places. Like, because I make all of our meals at home. And she says, you know what, now I can't have this in a restaurant because it's not going to be as good. So, you know what, you can experiment and make food that actually is great, great tasting as well as great for you. So you just got to take the step. You know, it's going to be hard at first. I mean, when I first started out, it was, your basic seasonings. Now my spice cabinet is completely full.
Yeah.
And I use every single one of them. I'm finding recipes for all kinds of things. And you guys have it easier now because of the internet. When I started this, I would have to get my recipes from a magazine. I still make magazines. They still send out magazines. Right? I had subscriptions to a couple of different magazines that would provide healthy recipes. But now you can just Google healthy, easy to make recipes, and you're gonna get thousands of hits to do that. Go ahead, Maria.
ChatGPT works great too.
ChatGPT? If you say so. Anybody else? Final comments? All right. So like I said, you know what? God doesn't want you feeling anxious or depressed, but He has given us the tools. He's given us the tools to take care of ourselves. Once you have done that, once you've done all that you can do, I promise you, God will do what you can't because He did it for me. And I'm not any more special than you. I'm not any more talented than you. I'm not any more blessed than you. God doesn't like me more than you. Okay?
Except your wife.
Well, He does like my wife is His favorite, but we're talking about me. We're getting started. If you come on Wednesday, you'll understand that joke. But yeah, so if He did it for me, He absolutely will do it for you. But you've got to do your part as well. Amen? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just come to you in the name of Jesus, dear God. Lord, you said in your word that if we lack wisdom, we can come to you and you give freely without finding fault, dear God. No matter how many mistakes we've made in the past, we can come to you for wisdom right now. Give us that wisdom today, dear God. Give us that wisdom and to search for the answers we need. Give us the wisdom to find the answers we need. Give us the wisdom to find the medical professionals that will give us the right advice and who will guide us in this journey, dear God. And most of all, Lord, give us the strength to follow through, dear God. That is my prayer. Bless these people as they go. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you.